We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
Welcome back. Best hour of their day. Fern, Ackerman. Crazy times we're living in, Fern, but we're not talking about politics. We're not even talking about Matt Frazier and Rich Froning. What's going on there?
They made up. They made up.
I don't pay enough attention to the
I
events.
got a couple weird updates on it, and then Dave, had a little popcorn emoji on one of the posts on there. I don't know. There was a podcast where it's just like they were talking. There's a video of Rich, and he was like, "This is not true." And then like immediately there's video of them like shaking hands and being like, "This is garbage. Everybody shut up." So I was just like, "Oh, look at that." Was
that a current picture? I didn't realize they were both in Tennessee currently.
Yeah,
like in the moment.
I don't know why he wouldn't be there. Matt's been there for 3 years, I think.
Well, anyway, even despite that,
it looked current. It looked current. So,
all right. Well, hey, I'm glad to hear they're doing all right. I'm glad.
The world could absolutely deal with a little bit less drama. So I can appreciate two people squashing drama like gentlemen.
But if Frazier and Froning can get along, everybody?
More cordial conversations, everybody. More cordial conversations.
I do agree. People always ask, how do you and Fern get along? Hey, we just talk, keep an open mind. We don't try to win conversations.
I think we get along fantastic, and we disagree on a lot, man. I get along with 99.99% of the people that I know because listen, if you're judging me based on social media, then you probably don't know anything about me. But like, I'm open to literally anything.
Well, and I think it's okay to be strong opinioned yet open-minded.
I think that's at least what I like to think I'm striving for.
Yeah, and I think the people that don't get along are the ones that are strong opinion and not open-minded.
Right. Like if the other side is just wrong, that definitely is a thing, right? Like where you're just that's just wrong. But listen, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not Socrates or Plato. But I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and most things are down the middle. And I'm oddly enough pretty milquetoast, to be quite frankly. Like I'm. If you really want to sit down and have an extended conversation, I'm going to be about as middle as you could get.
Well, speaking of Nostradamus, one of the questions we get a lot is, should we expand? Or actually, I'll tell you what, we don't even get the question. We just get the, I'm expanding.
Right.
And
short answer is no, don't do that.
Right. Point being, let's take a glimpse into your future. And don't do it. And I think it works two ways. It works with the expansion of A, just the space that you're currently in, and B, the space as in I'm going to open a second or a third location or affiliate.
Definitely don't do that one. That's I know many people that have tried it, and I know very few of them that have done it successfully. And even they would tell you that it is less than ideal. And they're in air quotes, doing it successfully. One of which is right here, standing next to me, Lindsay. 2 affiliates? Yes or no?
Fuck no.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
I think Lindsay just likes to come into your office when we're recording, get that little shine, get that best hour shine on.
Bruce, trying to be on the interwebs.
Did she just bring you a water?
So yeah, that one. No, she definitely didn't bring me a water.
I was gonna say you got
her water.
So Lindsay's owned multiple.
That's your job to bring me water.
At the same time,
right.
Those that don't know Lindsay, CrossFit Max Effort in Vegas. You've owned multiple affiliates.
Right.
I've owned multiple affiliates. So are you saying it's a hard no? Never?
it's not never, right? Nothing is never. Well, there's some things that are never, but almost never. I will go with like, I would be willing to bet money in Vegas that virtually everybody that's going to come to me with that proposal, my answer is going to be absolutely not. You should not do that.
When is it the right time? When is it acceptable then, in your opinion?
I think number one, if you have gone through the process of building out something that would look like a franchise plan or something of that nature, right? So just having that plan in place, number one, means that at least you're traveling down the right path to some degree with regard to operationally what that should look like. Okay. So that's like 30,000 foot from a strategic level. My personal belief is that you should be able to, not necessarily doing, but you should be able to be completely absent from the business, and the business should be running something north of a 40% profit margin. And you should try to do the vast majority of it with capital on hand. Or if you have capital on hand and don't want to burn it, you just don't want to burn it. So then maybe you take out a loan, but you could pay for it if you wanted to. So those would be my two kind of like hard stops to be like, if you're not just literally sitting around picking your nose because you're so bored to death, then the answer is no. And
funny you bring up.
Secondly, you better be running offensive margins to do that.
Well, I was going to say, you bring up two categories that I was successful in prior to opening my second affiliate. So I wasn't on the schedule. I didn't need to be there at all. And we were able to open the second affiliate completely off of money from the first. Now, then
I'm okay with it.
But even with that being said, I don't know that I would do it again. I think there's two things that, multiple, but two quick things I would consider is, one, is it going to be worth it? Like, if you're doing that well, why not just chill the fuck out and just, enjoy the money that you're bringing in? And then secondly, I would say, are you truly maximized in what you're bringing into the current box? Because yes, you can open a second location and probably bring in a lot more members because it's in a new spot, a new demographic, a new town. But you also have way more expenses associated with those 100 new members than had you just brought in 20. There's a number there where 20 at my current spot is a bigger margin, a bigger profit than 100 at a new spot. And not just financially, but time. Like, I need to get new coaches. Right. We need new equipment. We need new hours, etc.
You're doubling the manpower. You're doubling the problems. You're doing all of these things. So it's doubling the things I have to manage. Now, I think the big problem is this: there is a mindset error here, which is I'm going to open the second affiliate to solve my financial problems.
That's like having a kid to solve your marital problems.
Exactly. So it doesn't work that way. It should be one of those things where, like, I've got everything I need and I'm just bored. So I'm going to go do this other thing because I have nothing to do now. If that's you, listen, I will get pom-poms and I will be on your cheerleading squad. Like that. In that instance, I'm like, cool, do it. If you want to take over the world, I'm all about it. But typically almost every single one of these scenarios lacks all of those things, meaning there's no plan for management. And what they're trying to do is, and I made this mistake originally when we did it, and then for multiple reasons, just quite frankly, out of my control, it got worse, trying to split the staff across both affiliates. So that doesn't work either. So you need to have like a full independent staff to go to that other place and make that work.
Yeah, you're going to just tax the people, you're going
to crush people.
And not to mention the people that are at your current location are there because they love the staff. Now you're getting
They're going to get bent.
Yeah,
they're going to get bent. They're going to be upset.
There's obviously a handful of expenses that you can use at both your Wodify systems, your programming. Really, I mean, that's kind of the extent of it, really.
Right, that's it. Everything else isn't like you're going to pay twice as much in merchant fees. You're going to have all new utility bills.
Right. You need more equipment.
You need more equipment. You have twice as much admin work.
What else? Maybe you order more. One thing we did was order more T-shirts, so the margin went up a little bit there, but not worth a new location.
You're talking about a minor
pennies on the dollar
of something. Yeah. Well, you're talking about 5% increase on average client value across both affiliates. Not going to get you where you want to be.
But we hear a lot of people that open up and they're like, okay, my goal is so many of, and it goes back to the same thing. One, begin with the end in mind. So many people that we talk to are like, I want to make X amount of dollars. I need 500 members. We're like, no, you need 100 really good members. And I think it goes back to just that question of, what do you want out of this? Because for me, in retrospect, making 6 figures at a box I really enjoyed, with people I really enjoyed being around, with low stress and low time commitment, was much better than spreading myself too thin.
There's just everybody thinks it's going to be great. The assumption is just like more money, right? I'm going to get more money. It's going to cost you money on the front end, regardless of you're doing it well. There's going to be an investment on the front end that you're going to have to make, whether it's a procurement of another facility, or you're going to have to use capital that you have to outfit it. You're going to invest money on the front end in order to make that happen. Whether you have it sitting on hand, and if you are, then great, good. You run a profitable business, fantastic, good for you. The problem is that that's not most scenarios. I go from being stretched thin to being stretched thinner, and it's usually a disaster. One of them, and typically both of them, suffers immensely.
Yeah, something I said to one of our Affiliate U clients was mo members, mo problems.
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. I'm empathetic to it. I've been there. I've made, again, there's very few mistakes that you and I haven't made. And that's one of them. I didn't do that well. And, and to be very honest, had we not been kind of forced out of that situation because of some legal issues with the landlord, I'm not even entirely certain I could have rectified the problems. I'm quasi confident we could have gotten it done, but I can't say that for certain, because there was just so many things that I hadn't calculated that I now know that I'm just everything I was trying to do with multiple facilities, I ended up doing in one. That was a lesson learned for me. I was I didn't need to move outside of this to do all the additional things. When I consolidated, when I was forced to consolidate everything, was when I was oh, I literally never have to leave here. It's there's the parable about the guy who lived on a diamond mine.
Yeah.
Just he went all around and searching for diamonds, and then he sold his property for pennies on the dollar. And it turns out he was sitting on a massive diamond mine, but he went searching all over the world for everything else. It's not you're sitting on your own gold mine. You just haven't started really digging yet, which is one of the first things we start doing with Affiliate U, just exposing people to be you're actually sitting on a gold mine. You just are unaware of it. You have no idea where to put the shovel first and where to start digging.
Well, one of the problems I no longer make, Fern, is taking care of my beard. For a long time, I was not.
This is a legit question. If I use Doc Spartan products, would I be able to grow a beard? If I just start putting beard butter on my face, will I grow a Spartan-like beard and be able to kick you into some deep hole somewhere?
Nothing can cure your babyface Cuban genetics. Is it That's Cuban?
True. Yes, my father's from Cuba.
Yeah, nothing can fix that. You got that Castro gene in you, and you just, but I recommend the deodorant. It's all natural. I recommend the body scrub, the coffee scrub, but yeah, you probably don't need the beard butter ever.
Can I put it in my hair?
I do actually. I rub it in my beard at night. And then whatever's left on my hands, I'm if this is good for my beard, it's good for my hair. So I put it all over personally. And it's the beard butter. It smells good. It's Sex Panther. So why wouldn't I want to rub it everywhere? Awkward moment yesterday. I was getting my hair cut, and the girl trims up my hair and then brushed over my eyebrows. You know how your eyebrows get kind of bushy? Do yours get bushy?
Were you afraid that she shaved them off?
No. I asked her to. I said, "Hey,
I was like, what's that movie when they just accidentally shave the one eyebrow off?"
Well, that's why I don't do them myself, because I'm like, I'll mess these up. So I said, "Hey, first of all, how is it with eyebrows that you're fine one day and the next day you literally have like a 3-inch eyebrow? Like, how does it sprout 3 inches overnight? I don't know how that happens."
Doc Spartan.
Maybe you should use the beard butter. But anyway, so she goes, "Is that it?" And like, I wasn't even thinking. I go, "Well, do you provide any other services?" and she like looked at me funny. It was my first time with her, and I was like, I didn't mean it like that. I was like, I'm good. I just meant like
get out.
Yeah, I was
Get
like,
out.
I do my own beard, so we're good to go. Have you heard of Doc Spartan? So anyway, use the code BESTHOUR over at DocSpartan.com, 15% off. Guaranteed to make you into a sex panther, not guaranteed to help you grow facial hair. Fair enough?
Well, I'm already good.
So anyway, let's take it now. We've talked about expanding to a second location. How about just expanding your overall space? When is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? Because I can tell you right now, I made big mistakes there.
I did not make mistakes there. So that is something I did correctly here. I made secondary mistakes with regard to that had nothing to do with the expansion. There were personnel things that I made mistakes in, just communicating, neither here nor nothing devastating. Like everybody that was that, all those relationships intact. So one of the things is one of the first things I think you should look at is, what does your class schedule look like? So I don't think you should be considering expanding your current space unless you're running a minimum of 7 to 8 classes a day and you're open all day.
Right, because first and foremost, and this is where I went wrong. It was, okay, we have busy classes, so we need more space. When in reality, the first question you should ask yourself is, well, where can I put more classes? Because again, it's just money, right? How do I not spend more money but continue to grow this gym? Same as expanding to a second location. How about not spending that money but growing the gym? So I like it. More class, and then you get to the point.
So it's just like, okay, so let's assume. What I was going to say is there's a lot of questions to be asked there, which is, okay, so either way, you're going to spend more money, right? So whether I expand my space or whether I expand my class schedule, it's overhead. So, but to take a look at that, the differences in overhead couldn't be farther apart. Add one more class onto the schedule, maybe 2 more classes to the schedule, none of which you coach. Let's call it $1,000 a month in overhead.
Right.
Probably not what your expansion is going to cost, either initially on the build out or in additional rent every single month. It might be, but probably not. Based on most of what I know and I've seen and I've dealt with, it's probably not $1,000. So right then and there, that's where you should make that investment is, okay, where do I put more classes on the schedule? Because now all I've done is made more room for people to get into the building, So one of the, and everybody thinks they know where classes are going to go, but you don't actually know until you start playing around with it. For instance, we now have a 10:30 a.m. that I would have never, ever, ever, ever put on the schedule. It just happened to hit post-COVID opening up because we started in the middle of the day and then expanded out to our normal schedule from there. So we were trying to get everybody into a tighter window for the day. So it wasn't, because I knew we weren't going to have everybody back. And that class stuck. And I was like, well, I guess it's here to stay. So that is my class. So we currently run a 6 a.m., a 9 a.m., a 10:30, a noon, and then a 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. And I don't have any need to expand. I could easily, if demand was there, add 3 classes a day. I could go 5 a.m. I could split the noon and go 11:30, 12:30, in that block of time, and there's 2 easy ones right there, and then potentially a 7 p.m. And that's my 3 classes costing me a whopping $1,500 to $2,000 on the high end. And that's significantly less than the expansion and rent costs that I assumed when we took over that space.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, and it's a little off topic, but how would you recommend people testing new class times other than just slapping them on? Because I find the problem is if you put it on, it's hard to take off. So what are some of the things go ahead.
Yeah, then. Yes and no. Yeah, I think there's typically some obvious ones. And they're usually like, if you have big gaps, it's like, could I put one in this big gap? Right. So if you have like a packed morning schedule and then nothing for the rest of the day until the afternoon. And when I say morning, I mean like early morning, like early morning is another one. So the 8:30 to 10 window in most gyms has good attendance, right? So maybe you stick one there. If you've got early morning and then you have afternoon and then you have mid-morning, the next obvious one is noon or lunchtime from there. And this is assuming they're all full, right? If it's your time, then maybe you can play around with that a little bit and it'll be fine. But if you're going to pay for it, I really want my classes to be overloaded. So I would start adding where the classes are the fullest and start to disperse those people out. So if you're only running 2 afternoon classes, the first thing is try to move to 3. Now, where do you put it? You're going to have to experiment with that. Maybe you shift everything to the left half hour. Maybe you add one on before or one after, to the front end or the back end. In my experience, the mistake people make is they do not manage the expectation here with the client base. And what they should be telling people is, we're experimenting. None of this is set in stone. We reserve the right to move it off if it doesn't work. And that way, everybody's just understanding that this is an experiment. We will take it off if there is no attendance. If there is good attendance, then we will leave it. But it's not here forever. We're going to find out.
Yeah, I think that's always important. And then how do you recommend, if they do that, actually getting rid of it?
Again, communication is key. Heads up, we're taking it off in X number of days.
Okay, so it's just it's a trial.
Right, it's a trial. Oh, and you don't have to, I don't think you have to give it an end date. Right, you can just tell people, we're going to try it, and then I'll cancel it when I'm ready, but I'll tell you when we're going to cancel it. So give yourself some wiggle room if you're going to experiment. I don't need to have like a start and an end date, because it might not be. What if you misgauge the time and you didn't have it open long enough for people to kind of start trickling in? So there's just things you need to consider here with regard to, like, how much do I want to spend before determining that it's not worth it, and I'm going to pull it off the schedule and save myself the $500 to $1,000, depending on what you're paying and how many classes it is. And so I think there's a lot of kind of, if you will, scribbling on a napkin that you should try to sort out prior to be like, what's the best option? And then I know we've said not to do this in the past, but you could at least get like a rough litmus test on where to start, potentially by surveying the members, knowing that survey is flawed.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Everybody's going to answer with, most things that they would never do. They'd be like, I would love to have an 8-12 class in the morning because for, whatever. And you're just like, that's weird, but.
So anyway, definitely expand your schedule first. Do you think there's there's always times that are just, regardless of what box you're at or where you live, that aren't going to grow? Like you said, though, the 10 a.m. grew, and I think you'd be surprised, rather than immediately jumping to the idea of expansion, test it and just see what happens. Again, there's a lot of benefits here. It's more convenience for the members with regard to time, because if you just expand and you don't change your class schedule, then it's not any more convenient for anybody. Realistically, it's right. It's the same amount of convenience for way more cost when you do that. Exactly.
The other mistake people make when they do this is is they don't raise prices when you do. If you expand, prices should go up because all of your expenses just went up.
Well, not to mention, I think even prior to this is, again, something I would have done. Back in the day, I had hundreds of members, many of them on discounts, before I reeled that in, which is a huge problem that we discuss in Affiliate U. You can't have discounts. I mean, like we said, you want to offer LEO, military, et cetera, do it. But we're talking discounts randomly thrown out there for your members. But here I was discounting a bulk of my membership, and I'm expanding for them. So before that, okay, you're paying 100, our rate is 160. I need to get everybody up to 160 before I decide to expand. Because you're just expanding for those people. You're expanding for the people that are actually the problem.
And I think that is a perfectly reasonable response. And just to be like, I'm totally open to that, and we could do that. However, you're not going to get all of that for nothing. Like you're going to have to pay for it, right? And I think that's totally fair. When we expanded here, we did. It's probably like one of the few things I got right in the first shot. And it wasn't even really the first shot, but it was like I had done it. We had moved spaces and expanded like 2 times before that. So this one I did, we had like a 9-month kind of plan in order to do that. And we had the revenue prior to pay for the expansion prior to expanding. So what we did was we started investing heavily on upgrades and equipment for 9 months prior to that. And we spent something to the tune of like $20,000 in 9 months. I mean, it was a lot. We bought all new everything to the point where, people knew it was crowded because we were running, all the CrossFit classes and all of the East Coast Gold weightlifting in the roughly 4,500 square feet. And the afternoons were insane. And to some degree, I really miss that. We talk about that all the time. We're a little bit nostalgic about it, but to some degree, but it was insane. And I would walk in there sometimes and there would, no kidding, be 45 to 50 people on the floor. And it was just chaos to the point where I was just like, we can't do this anymore.
It's fun though. Like, it's a fun
it's
vibe.
Super
right?
fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun. And it was amazing. And I miss, because everybody here gets along and the camaraderie was good and everybody worked well together. We had established kind of like etiquette rules with regard to how it worked. And everybody, it's just like, everybody would abide by the rules and it was cool. However, there were more, it began to be a scenario where more often than not, there was something that I would look at that would be alarming from a safety standpoint with regard to proximity to people, to barbells and things of that nature. I was like, all right, we got to solve this problem. So then we started, I was like, oh, okay, how can we kind of get ahead of this so that we not only keep everybody, but they're stoked about it, but they also know what's coming. So we started investing and in upgrading and doing all these things. And again, we spent a ton of money leading up to that. And we started letting people know, like, we're working on a problem, we're negotiating with the landlord. And I knew we had done it right when people started just randomly coming up to me completely unprompted. And they're like, I'm pretty sure prices are going up. You guys have been doing like all the stuff in the gym. And I'm like, they are. We're just not ready to tell you. But when we do, we're going to give everybody plenty of lead time and we're going to tell you how it's going to work. And nobody said a word. We didn't lose anybody because we had pre-invested. And then with the expansion, it wasn't weird. Right? Because the CrossFitters are like, we want more space. And the weightlifters are like, we need more space. And I'm like, cool, but everybody's got to collectively pay for that.
And we've helped numerous affiliates with their rate increase, as well as, like we discussed earlier, getting those discounted members to the standard rate. It's always a fear that you're going to lose all these people. Thus far, with Affiliate U, I would say the average box has lost less than one person. It's never, ever what you think it's going to be. And that's when you do it right. Yes, you could do it wrong. We don't allow that to happen. We do things like Fern's talking about. We help you draft the email that your members are going to get. We help you lay out the timeline when we're going to do this. But it's the lowest hanging fruit for almost all boxes to immediately give yourself a pay increase. And your members are for it. Your members are like, my pleasure.
That's the key part, is that your members want you to succeed. And we're talking about, and again, sometimes we get some shit from people who are just like, it's all about the money. Listen, I'm here to tell you, for a box owner who's working their ass off and not making any money, yes. And I make no bones about it. Like 100%, that is what we were talking about, because that person deserves to be paid. They are working harder than most people could possibly fathom. It's not weird. It's 100% appropriate.
Absolutely. And the members that don't agree or don't want to or give you pushback, you don't want them. I mean, where else in life would you want to hang out with people that don't want to see you succeed and do your best to take care of them after that? You'd be like, get the hell out of my life. So let's bring it to this. We've talked about a lot of reasons not to expand. Let's throw out a few times where it is. We talked about going to a second space. How about just as far as overall space goes? When would you say let's expand?
Kind of like the scenario, and this was Coach Glassman's things from years ago. Basically, when people are falling out of the doors, it's time. When they're falling out of the doors and you've maxed out the schedule, it's time. You know, when every class is whatever you consider to be max capacity, 15 to 20 people across the board, potentially it's time to start considering. You should at least start having the conversation, because this is something that typically takes a year or less to do it right, to have the planning and all these things put in place. But right before that, it's just like, could I take this 15 to 20 people and make it 13 to 15 people by adding 1 to 2 classes on the schedule? Potentially. And then I can add more people, right? So again, think about if I go from 5 classes to 7 classes, but at 5 classes it was 20, but at 7 classes it's 15. I mean, do the math there. You're winning, right? Like, everybody's still very happy and the business is healthy. So why not try to maximize what you got?
You know, and then I would encourage you to just consider supply and demand. Okay, we're not going to expand. Our average person's paying $150. We're going to stay here. We're going to bump up our rate to $175 or whatever that number is. And it's okay if we have less people. We're going to have better quality people.
Right.
You know, and not just less people, but less headaches. Like, I know earlier I said more members, more problems. It's true. I mean, just dealing with more people in your life is more opportunity for issues, for drama, for anything to go wrong. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's not a hard and fast rule, but yes. So where I went wrong was, and I see other boxes doing this, you know, part of it was the spacing issue. I was on racquetball courts. I was only allowed to expand in certain directions, etc. But even still, what I could have done better is I was letting people at the time, you know, they're coming in, they're doing their own programming, and then they're taking up the space of the people that are hitting class. And you see that a lot, though. It's like you have your open gym people consuming space. Now, typically, 2 things are true about those people. One, they're usually either paying less or trying to pay less because they, you know, don't get coached. But secondly, they're also your less than stellar members. They're the people, you know, if you're not coming to my class, you're showing me you don't trust in me, you don't believe in the product, you want to do your own thing, you probably have a little more of an ego than I want to deal with. So, you know, it goes back to either raising the rates for everyone, the supply and demand, or just be aware of, okay, is your gym actually busy and crowded because class is busy and crowded, or is it that you're allowing people to just come in, do their thing, and take up space?
You kind of, I don't know if you glossed over on purpose, but kind of referenced something that's kind of subtle, but we didn't even talk about, which is you may not even need more space. You might need to just rearrange your space. Or like if you got packed classes and you're one of these typical like center rig gyms, that's the first thing we change. Right? Just get that thing out of the center of the floor. So again, there's a lot of subtleties with regard to things where you can start to buy. And again, we did this before we expanded, where I started trying to buy back 10, 12 square feet at a time with regard to equipment and how we stored things and all that. You can start to really make the space feel, it's like a house, right? If designed really well, 1,500 square feet can feel massive. Or if designed like garbage, it feels like you're living in a college dorm room with 8 people. So design it that way and think about the logistics of your gym so that you can maximize that square footage. And this is kind of a conversation about occupational operational capacity, which has validity, but I don't think is the thing you should be thinking about in CrossFit. And we'll talk about that later. So like, I'm not totally against it, but I'm not like all in on it. That's the only thing ever that we should be looking at. So
yeah, I agreed. I think for a lot of people, before even considering expansion, take a hard look at your space. You can probably get some computer generated imagery also, where you kind of move the rig around. Rogue does that, and you can probably kind of look at the equipment you currently have. What can come off the floor? I mean, the most expensive thing you're paying for is your floor space. Do you have a desk, a front desk that's taking up space? Do you have barbells in the upright versus on the wall? All of those questions that you should be looking. Can you put something outside in a shed? We bought a shed for all of our strongman equipment at one point. So lots of different options.
Yeah, like a Connex box, box that you have and that's also something we do in Affiliate U's. Like we in the second phase of the course, like that is something we will review. It's like video pictures of the space, because and this is a secondary conversation with regard to just being efficient with your space. You also get to clean up, again, we've talked about this before, like pain points within the member's experience. Like the wall balls are stored like garbage and nobody can find them, or the dumbbells are a hot mess, or I have no idea which kettlebell weight this is, or, like the rubber bands are stuck behind a box in the back corner that you have to go through a real creepy room to get to, like that sort of stuff should also be fleshed out, but for different reasons, because everything should be pretty obvious. And if it's obvious, it's probably efficient. And if it's efficient, you're probably maximizing your space.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole conversation on how to maximize and organize your space. But yeah, I mean, from spray painting the bumpers to labeling the bells to organizing the dumbbells, all of that is important. But hopefully, we've just given you some food for thought when it comes to expansion, because more isn't always better, just like training. Better is better. Speaking of, how about that 200-pound power plane I had?
Do we want to talk about that?
That is
equally
as impressive as your friend.
Is that what we're calling that, a power clean?
I call it. I mean, I think it fits the power clean definition. It was a ground to shoulder. It was definitely a ground to shoulder.
It was definitely a ground to shoulder. I'm not sure I would call it a power clean. But it was definitely a ground to shoulder.
I cannot believe how many comments I got on that post. Like 200 people.
I'll be honest with you. I can't believe 200.
Dude, it was ridiculous. Like I couldn't keep up. I just was like, okay, I'm not looking at
I don't know if you got more on that or your question about the term soccer moms.
What's your opinion on that?
I am kind of in the camp with you that you've said many, many times, is like, I think you can say most things. It just depends on how you say it. If it's said with affection and not in a derogatory manner, which I've never, ever used that term in a derogatory manner. Like, I don't even consider it. I don't even consider, it just never would even occur to, like, I have only ever used that term with adoration.
Yeah, I agree. I think
it is, for me, it is a term of adoration. Like it is nothing other than that.
And I would say 98% of the comments on that agree with us.
Oh, for sure. I was shocked by the number of comments with regard to that.
Both of those, I just think they really stung both my power clean and that question.
The power clean more so than the question, but yeah.
It was funny because I was talking about a muted hip on a previous post, and I was like, watch, I'm going to demonstrate it. Like, I know what I do wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to give out a prize to some of those comments, but 99% of the comments gave the wrong cue. The correct cue was go lighter. I mean, that was it. Like, anyone that was trying to, like, because at that, as you know, at your threshold, I'm not fixing anything with that weight. The only thing I'm fixing is
not with that weight.
I'll squat clean it. Like, my squat clean looks very good compared to my power clean. So yeah, I can squat clean it, but anybody that's like separate your hips and elbows or squeeze your butt, like, that shit ain't happening.
No, it's not that problem is a lot of position work at lower percentage weight to train you into good positions.
Yeah, I think probably the best cue came from Anasan, one of the guys that helps us with the website, and his cue was go home. So I think that was, but yeah, the correct answer would have been strip the weight and let's work on some stuff. I love the ones that gave me compliment sandwiches though. Those were great in effort. Like that's how you should coach. And in order to get someone to go lighter, you got to get like, whoa, nice PR. Let's back it off to 135. Let's work on some position work. And then I want to see you do that again. So,
and just to give a little nugget, and then we can wrap this up with like some people might not even know what we're referring to when we say position work. So one of the things, so Phil here and the crew with East Coast Gold, that's one of the things they are masters at with regard to teaching weightlifting. And they do a lot of catches and pauses in positions to highlight poor positions. And what I'm referring to is, because this comes up a lot at in the level 1 particularly, it's like, how do I fix this person who does the high school football power clean, or the J Ackerman as it will now be referred to forever. And a very simple, at least teaching point is when they catch the power clean, they have to pause in the catch. They cannot stand up. That is a very quick correction for really awful positions, because they're awful because they're inefficient.
Well, they're awful also. Like I wouldn't have been able to pause. If I tried to pause,
that's my
there,
point. It can't.
Fell.
Or there's a light bulb that goes on immediately because you already know that, which changes the movement. Right. So just simply knowing that as an athlete with enough reps under your belt, you would either make the right decision to bring the weight down, or you're forced to change the position because of the new requirement.
So let's talk about the power. You know what? We'll talk about it on the next episode.
I think that was a good nugget though.
That was a great nugget, but there's a lot to talk about. For example, I think everybody has a threshold where their form goes out the window. Someone like me that can squat clean more than they can power clean, how do we get them to find that belief that they can go down without going below parallel? How do we correct some of these?
Wait, so you can squat clean more than you can power clean? Or you
significantly more. Like I have a...
Well, that's correct, though. The other people's the one that we're worried about.
For sure. I mean, I can squat clean 245 maybe, and that was a 200-pound power clean. It's been heavier, but the point is, and we'll talk about it on the next episode, everybody's like, catch it lower. I'm like, well, I either catch it here or I'm below parallel. I have a hard time catching it in the middle, which is what you need to do. But we'll dive into the power clean on the next episode. How about this? If you have questions that you want us to answer on the power clean episode, shoot us an email, besthouroftheirday@gmail.com, or DM us on Instagram. And speaking of question and answers, if you haven't already, go support us at Patreon. For $6 a month, you get a private episode only for those patrons, only for those that support us over there. $6, the cost of one fancy cup of coffee that Fern drinks every day. And, for $6, he didn't deny it. See, we see him drinking it if you watch us on YouTube. The episodes go up on YouTube.
I mean, if you average out the cost of that coffee maker over 10 years, it probably still $6.
So anyway, go support us at patreon.com/best hour of their day. And lastly, if you're interested in learning more about Affiliate U, we are taking a few more calls. The link is in our bio on Instagram. You can book a free call and learn if Affiliate U is the right decision for you. Cool, Fern. Power Clean coming up next. We hope you've had the best hour of your day.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.